All right, Taurus, so you've got some difficult ones this time. Now, this week from Lay Vampire, you pulled Nightmare, Psychic Protection, Shield, and Bad Dreams. And then from Chakra Wisdom, you pulled Release. Now, this is the third time that I've seen this card come up for Taurus. And it worries me a little bit, but I do like that Nightmare is there. And the reason why I say that is because when this card appears, it's saying that that part of your life is coming to an end. But it does suggest that somebody has been through a nightmare phase in their life. And for me, that means somebody who is going through a lot of anxiety, they can't get any sleep, they're having bad dreams, and it's affecting you. And it's affecting you especially during like sleeping patterns here with a nightmare. But the card showing up is saying that there is that shield and protection now. So it's coming to an end here, but then there's still something that needs to be released. Now the inspiration says, this is about personal responsibility and release of blame. It is time to clear the debris and move on. You cannot move forward while you continue to hide. The personal question says that this indicates healing family of origin issues, which is where, you know, the shadow work and the shadow self starts to come in here. And it says, am I ready to face my past and let go? And then the key ideas are release, dwelling on the past, righteous anger, change in consciousness, judgment day, seeing clearly, hidden truth, and great discovery. Now, what stuck out for me was the righteous anger. All right, Taurus, here we go. Whew, a little bit shaky on that one. Here's the energy coming through. All right, so the Ten of Swords is a signifier. This being here is saying that you've already hit that painful ending. It's basically, you know, you needing to deal with it now. Now, with the Ten of Swords, you know, it is hitting rock bottom. You know, it can suggest betrayal. But the important thing for me when I see this, especially as a signifier, is saying that, you know, if you've been through something painful, now is the time to get up and get off the ground. But, you know, it's hard to do when we go through those kinds of painful endings, you know, but it does lead back into clarity. But damn, Taurus. And in the past, the Fool, you know, and what really bothers me about that is, you know, if you took a leap into something or went and headed down a new path, seeing the Ten of Swords is like, man, that's rough. You know, having faith in something and then being completely let down is what it feels like. You know, because normally the Fool is like ready to go on a new path, taking that leap of faith, you know. But here it's like, oh man, it feels rough, Taurus. And in the present, now that feels a little bit better to me. You know, I kind of get the feeling that, you know, the worst is over with. I just think that for some of you, you may be having a hard time seeing it. Now, having the Two of Wands in the present moment is basically saying that you're looking at, you know, all right, if I'm responsible for creating my own world, what do I need to start doing? You know, you're making those decisions to act, but you're making the right decisions here. Man, Taurus. It's rough because I understand it. You know, I don't understand the details, obviously, of what each and every one of you are going through, but just in the general sense, you know, taking this leap of faith and then just falling flat is like, man, that sucks ass. It sucks ass, you know, but you're picking yourself back up. Okay, so now future conditions, the Two of Swords. You know, one of the things that stuck out to me, especially with, you know, this deck, was this card and how, you know, the hands are tied. You feel like your hands are tied in a situation, like literally, right? It's also about needing to make difficult decisions, right? And it's almost like, okay, you know, what decisions do I need to make here to start acting, basically? But something has got you like, you know, not ready to make a decision quite yet. I mean, you're looking at it, you're thinking about it, but are you actually doing it is the question. And it may be because you're still dealing with the aftermath here of the Ten of Swords. The two of them, between the Fool and the Ten, it has Tower energy around it. And that's what bothers me. But in future conditions here, it's like you're having a difficult time. And for some of you, you may still be in a difficult situation and dealing with it. And it's like you feel like you have no choice. Like you're wanting to move here with the Two of Wands. You're wanting to take different action, but you're like stuck. You're stuck with it almost. Your best path to follow, the Nine of Cups. Okay, so now when it comes to the Nine of Cups here, basically, what is happiness to you? What does happiness look like to you? It's almost like Spirit is telling you that, there is wish fulfillment there for you and happiness, right? But it's going to be up to you, and it may not be easy for you to just make those, clear-cut decisions, start acting, and boom, I manifest all this great shit. You can't do that if you're still focused here, It's like whatever that is needs to be cleared up here. But then also, I kind of feel like I need to say for some of you, you need to be careful about having unrealistic expectations. That's one of the things for me when I see the Nine of Cups surrounded by difficult cards. It's one thing to be clear on what makes you happy and knowing how you need to start acting with it and how you need to move forward to get it. But, the other part of it, though, too, is when you get what you want, are you still going to want it? Is it still going to satisfy you? You know what I mean? But there's happiness there, though, and emotional fulfillment. It's just, getting there is the issue. And your environment, the Hermit. So some of you are basically in hermit mode coming out of this, which is understandable. If you took a leap of faith into something and fell flat on your face, whether it was through your own actions or because of somebody else, which is what I feel like more here, it would make sense that you go into hermit mode. So basically in hermit mode, thinking about what you're going to do next. But what bothers me is that you see the Two of Swords and it's like, okay, here's what I could do, but am I going to do it? Not really, But again, it's like I understand, like I get it, especially with the Ten of Swords being the signifier here. Your hopes and your fears, the Four of Swords. That to me is like, it almost has the feeling of, between the two, like the star kind of, but not really. When you're looking at the Four of Swords, yes, it can suggest you needing to take a break to do some healing and also to think about things. And it's like doubled here, right? But the other thing, though, is when you're looking at it in terms of a fear with the Four of Swords, this could definitely be a situation here where you're afraid to say something. There's silence there with the Four of Swords. Nobody's talking about shit there. And there's no action either. And that may be where you feel like your hands are tied. You want to say something, but you can't because it's like you don't want to make the situation worse than what it already is. So instead, you're like in hermit mode in silence, kind of backing away and just thinking about things. And, I'm afraid to say this because, I don't want this to be, a part of the reading here. But it's a good thing that the Nine of Swords isn't showing up. Because, that would have been a lot worse. You have the potential here to clear up, like, whatever pain you're dealing with here with the Ten of Swords. But I still worry about how you feel like you can't do it. Like you're stuck with it, you can't do it just yet. Okay. Now, that's not so bad, but it makes sense. It makes sense. But I'm going to clarify this. So now the Four of Cups coming out. Okay, yeah. So basically what's happening here is you're not really acting. Emotionally, you're going to get in a funk because you're going to feel like you're still stuck with this situation. With the Seven of Cups, it's la-la land, right? Doing that wishful thinking, but not really seeing what the clear choice is. And then with the Ten of Cups, it's like that is what you're fantasizing about, is absolute happiness. But how do you get there? You know, it's the potential is there for sure. And I think that that's why, you know, Spirit's coming in here with the Nine of Cups. Like, think about what makes you happy. You know, what is happiness truly to you? You know, because being in that emotional blah is not happiness. Man, all right, Taurus, we're going to take a look at the soul trees here because I want to see what else is going to come out here in terms of what's happening. Yeah, we know, stuck and believe. Yeah, that feeling comes back to me. It comes back to me here looking at the Nine of Cups, like, right, like needing to believe that there is something better and that you can have happiness. Expansion. A part of yourself is expanding. A part of your life, a part of your mind, a part of your soul, something is expanding for you. But you feel stuck. And it's almost like, you know, you have support on either side of you, but you just can't see it right now, you know? And there needs to be a little bit of faith that has to come back here, even though I feel like you had it in the past and shit went wrong. But yeah, we know. And again, general readings, not going to apply to everybody, but somebody needed to hear this. And, you know, I really think that if you take time to yourself here, and, you know, again, with the Hangman though, too, right? Like, sorry about that, Taurus. I have a bad habit of not checking my battery. But, you know, back to the Hangman falling out and looking at the Hermit and you needing to get some clarity and some enlightenment, right? Like, you need to take time to yourself to really think about things. So I'm not looking at the Four of Swords as so much a bad thing, but I do feel, though, like for some of you, you feel like you can't say what you need to say. And that's where the kind of fear is coming in here. But again, you know, the potential for happiness is absolutely there. It's just, I think some of you had some faith here and it fell through in a really bad way. And it may be hard to, you know, get back to belief. Have patience. Love is patient and kind always. And then spend some quality time together. It is imperative that we spend quality time with those we are in significant relationships with, listening and talking to each other. So now, if this is something that is, you know, external to you, right? Basically, spending time with the people that love you and care about you is what's going to help you get through, you know, the emotional and painful issues around, you know, this really difficult situation here. But I feel like it's over and it's done with. You've already been through it. You're just working your way out of it now. You know, there's still happiness here between the Nine of Cups and the Ten of Cups. I almost feel like, you know, you just need to have patience when it comes to your thought process here, giving yourself some time alone, you know, as far as needing to think about things. But then again, at the same time, it's like, you know, don't push off the people who do love you, right? That's where spend some quality time comes in. But Taurus, you know, I feel like, you know, the situation is, it's over with, right? It being the Ten of Swords, it's over with. Now, some of you may still be going through this right now, you know, but by the end of it, you're going to go through some emotional difficulty around it. But, you know, the thing is it's not the Five of Cups. You're looking at the Four of Cups and you're looking at the Seven of Cups. It's basically like going into, you know, happiness the difficult way is the best way to put it. You know, because it's not, to me, it's not like major depression here. It's just, you know, being done with this. Emotionally, you're like, blah, you know, there's got to be something better. And then you go into fantasy land, which makes sense. But you come out with the Ten of Cups and that Nine of Cups again being there, saying that that happiness is there for you. All right, Taurus. So again, general readings not going to apply to everybody, but you guys know how I feel about this. It comes out for a reason. Somebody clearly needed to hear this here. And it's It's been difficult for me to even do this one and even talk through it because, man, just the feeling of having faith in something and then going to this, it makes sense why now there is the hermit mode here. But I think that your thinking is on the right track. I mean, it could have been worse. Like I said, the Nine of Swords could have showed up here, but it didn't. And I think that, time to yourself is what's going to be important, right? But you don't want to push everybody aside, though, too, because, I'm seeing you needing to spend some quality time with people who actually care about you and what you're going through. Now, I feel like for a lot of you, you have either decided to do something without thinking about the consequences, and you thought that, you were heading out on a new path. I can't even talk with this one. And things went completely wrong. And this is where I feel, the strongest here with the Fool and the Ten of Swords. Now, on the other hand, you may have had faith in a person and they completely let you down. Whatever it is, this is still like in your face and it's causing a problem, right? Now, I think that your thinking is on the right track, but my problem is that you end up with the Two of Swords here, like you feel like you're still tied to it, right? Because of the hands being tied. Your hands are tied in the situation, or you can't make the right decision just yet. Now, for some of you, if you're still going through this, it's going to come to an end, but I think it's already over with for a lot of you. Now, with the Four of Swords, definitely, and the Hermit, time to yourself, time to think, right? And again, the thinking is not on a bad spot here. It's just you need to be careful about like unrealistic expectations. And I still do feel like that for some of you. But my thing is the way that this works out with your outcome in the clarifiers, it's a little bit different. There's a feeling there of, once you get out of this emotional funk surrounding it, and oh my gosh, yeah, I so understand that with the Four of Cups. I hate that card. But after being through that, it's almost like being numb. Being numb from having to deal with all of it and then moving into a spot where, you may not be seeing the clear option here. But then again, what is happiness to you, right? And that may be what you're doing here with the Seven of Cups. Because you come out with the 10. So there's happiness there. There is happiness there. I mean, again, it goes back to this being your best path to follow. It's just, you are seriously coming out of a nightmare phase. Like, seriously. And I can understand why release is there. Now, for some of you, righteous anger, like that stuck out the most. Like, being angry and it being justified, and there again comes back to the feeling of having faith in a person who completely lets you down. Now, as far as the soul trees go, I swear to God, I'm going to be able to talk and get through this. Oh my goodness. And there again, with the Two of Swords and seeing the Four of Swords, some of you feel like you can't say something that you need to say. Like you can't do it just yet, But you have expansion, stuck, and believe, right? So expansion, something in your life is expanding. Your awareness may be expanding, again, with the Hermit and then having the Hangman pop out the way it did, But stuck, being stuck, I mean, stuck, right? Like, but there is going to be a need for you to get back to belief. But it may be hard because you may have like expanded a part of your life and things went completely wrong. And now you're stuck with this bullshit. And it's going to be really hard for you to get back to where you have faith again. Faith in yourself, faith in your plans, things like that. But, have patience, right? And it's like little solace here, right? Have patience through the situation. I just don't think that some of you are going to see it. For those of you who are going through this, it's going to be hard to see how the hell happiness is going to come through because it's still there, right? But if you take time to yourself, and you make sure that your thoughts are on the right track, I think that you'll get there. But this is like seeing the dark side of when Taurus is upset. And it's not good, right? And righteous anger, again, it keeps sticking out for me. And like, I totally understand. But, you know, again, Taurus, it is over with. And eventually this cycle is going to end. You know, it's going to be over with. It's just going to be up to you to release it, you know, right? Release it. But that may be really hard to do, and that's understandable. But, you know, remember that there's no reason why you can't have happiness in your life.